Hey everybody, we're ready for another fun-filled day in the garage. So, I'll insert the video of me cutting off the leaf spring pads so you can see the mess I got down here. I had to pull the rear end up underneath the car just so I had more room to work. But here's my old leaf pads. I used the plasma cutter to slice that out. I wasn't going to even bother trying to cut that thick of metal with a cutoff wheel or hacksaw or anything like that. And then I just ground down, and this is what all this mess is on here, and I just ground down where the old pads, what was left over, the slag. But I couldn't get in with the tip of the cutter. You know, there's about a, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch or so, or a little more, maybe a 1/4 inch of metal that was left over from it. So, as you can see now, I've got these new adjustable leaf pads in place. They're not clamped down because I have no idea what the pinion angle is going to be yet. But I'm just getting ready to throw this back up underneath the car and figured I'd shoot a little bit of this to show you what's up. I still need to clean this up and replace the gasket on the pinion axle, and it's leaking out the vent, and what's coming out is pretty nasty. So obviously I got to change the fluid. So that'll all be done when it's underneath the car. I should do it now, but I got to get this mocked up. So yeah, do things in the incorrect order as always. So I'm just going to throw this up underneath the car and get everything kind of bolted up temporarily, just because the car is literally just sitting on 4 jack stands. So I always want to get the rear end underneath there and get the weight on the axle versus just hanging out on the jack stands. And of course, there's really not a good place to put the jack stands anymore. So what I got to do here is I got to jack the car up from the far rear end of it, and then move the jack stands out, because the front leaf pockets are literally right here. So those stands got to come out, and that's just going to be free float while I put it in there. So maybe I'll do a time lapse of that. We'll see. All right. Never fucking fails. So, here's what we got going on. I thought I'd fix this, but a long time ago, the galaxy far away. You see this bolt up here? See how it's just loose now? So, what happened when I first bought this car? Excuse me. I had to replace the body bushings up front, and you kind of heard about all that from welding on the subframe, that whole episode, if you caught that. So when I had to take the subframe out the first time, motor trans out, front fenders, front of the car completely disassembled, go to drop the subframe, and of course the original subframe connectors were tack welded on, right? Which a lot of people do. It's not a big deal. Problem is the only way to get that off is to try and cut it, which I couldn't get to because I actually welded it on the top side of the subframe, meaning this part, the part where the floor pan is, so you couldn't get anything in there to cut it. So then that means I'd have to drop the front leaf pockets on the rear suspension. When I went to go do that, as soon as I tried to spin them, they busted. Just like that, right? And I was like, what the hell, what's going on here? I did some research and found out that there's these little J-clips, which I'll show you as soon as I get my fat ass off the ground here. Little J-clips that hold those bolts in place. This isn't exactly it, but it's close, right? It's just a little metal clip. It's got a nut version on it on one end, right? And it locks in place so it can't move. So when the bolt goes in, it holds it. Well, these snap. These are, thin halide gauge. That's like 20 gauge metal or 22 gauge metal. It's pretty thin, right? So they snapped for the original owner when they were doing something. So what they did is they cut open the floor pans, the seat pans actually, of the rear end of the car. You see I've got this plate here that covers it. Because I had to cut that open on both sides, and you can see it over there. Right? In fact, I'm gonna... Sorry for the squirrels. You can see they torched open the pan, right? Now I didn't fix that piece. I just figured, what the hell, it's not a big deal. But they torched open the pan, and then they took the bolts, and then they put JB Weld on them to hold them in place. So by the time that I got to it, right, who knows, 10, 20 years, maybe 30 years later, I don't know what it is, all that shit's rusted. So when I go to torque them out, the JB Weld breaks. Epoxy it's strong, and it can be used for some repairs, but they're temporary, cheap repairs. But that's the only thing that holds the front of these leaf pockets in place. You really don't want the whole one half of your rear suspension held in by JB Weld. So I thought I'd fixed it. Now, my dumb ass went in there and said, fuck it, and I welded it. Right? I welded it to the actual brace that's in there. And, as you just saw, I just broke that weld. So this time around, I'm going to have to cut that back open. And then I'm going to have to fix it correctly. I'm going to have to get new J-clips for it, because the ones that I have aren't the right type. I don't have any for the rear suspension. But I'm going to have to get the right type, and I'm going to have to get in there, clean it all up so that it's, fresh, clean metal. Then, of course, paint it, epoxy it, etc. And then put those new J-clips in. So now I just screwed myself, because this is, it just seems like something stupid for, something this big. That's it, something this big. Now it's going to take me weeks to fix. That's what happened the first time around. It literally took me 3 months of screwing around with this car, trying to get the subframe back in place with the leaf pockets, and I put them in, and everything was fine that time around. And then having to buy new subframe connectors, because I had to cut the old ones. I couldn't get anything off. I literally couldn't get it off, so I had to cut the subframe connectors just to be. Yeah, this is probably going to be the end of this video, because I really can't do too much more. I was hoping to get the rear end situated, at least mocked up today. That's what my goal was. I have all the hardware, I got all the parts, got everything in place. I was hoping to just mock it up, get it ready. It wasn't going to be snugged down tight or anything, just held in place, because I've still got to do the front suspension, and I got to weld some stuff here and there, and I got a couple other things that I need to do before it's all finished. But at least I wanted it mocked up so it's sitting on the rear suspension versus these two jack stands that are just in the wrong spot. So enough of my rant. Sorry guys. I'll have to update you later when I cut open those seat pans and fix it the right way, which I should have done years ago. See, even I screw things up. All right guys.